Welcome to Horrormail Tales. A letter. Slightly singed. What makes a monster? Are you a monster? Am I a monster? Maybe everyone and everything is a monster to someone. This next one is called Monster Madness. The fabric of the universe is not the solid sheet people love to pretend it is. Space-time is not some dodgy, ill-made thing. It is simply its own thing, and not fully discovered. It is strange that humanity can think through the oddest of things, which are in fact true, prove them true, and yet still be shocked and even attack the idea of its existence after it has been proven by the very same people. It is as this with time. On the one hand, time is an illusion and all happens simultaneously. While on the other hand, it is quite unacceptable to offer proof of this through witnessing time happening at the same time, through seeing the past or the future, and even being there and walking its path. But do not think that this story is some event with a huge machine, because this is not needed. All that is needed could best be described as a massive mistake. In fact, it more resembles some grand equation, being more complex than thought, so that a pattern that was thought to be understood turns out to be only the beginning. And then, after some seemingly inextricable event, it returns back to the thought-to-be pattern. In fact, when something like this happens, people may find themselves walking down some historical scene, or more likely some humdrum event from hundreds or thousands of years past. But this is only the tip of the iceberg, and from time to time, something even stranger occurs. The couple were only walking to the pub. They had not had a drink and were quite sober. But they walked arm in arm, unaware that they should in fact be running in the other direction. They turned, opened the door and walked in. But the sight that greeted them was not conventional for anyone there. The room was full of monsters. The strangest of creatures were within the room, all apparently intelligent. Some which looked to resemble dog-headed men and women, some that resembled people with huge ears, and others with claws for hands. Many that describe any other description other than that they were monstrous. The couple turned to run, but as they opened the door, they found just wall with no way out. They panicked, and this at least served to prove that they had not lost their faculties. They backed against the wall and found that some of the creatures were doing the same. A smaller creature pushed them, and they pushed back. They both stood ready to fight. The man had no unrealistic notion that this female partner would get out alive without herself fighting. The monsters ran around. Then they noticed that some of the creatures were sitting on what appeared to be chairs. In fact, they were chairs. This was unusual because the chair itself was invented by the ancient Egyptians. And so, how could monsters have them? Then, of course, the man and woman thought back and remembered the animal-headed deities of ancient Egyptian belief. In time, the panic started to disappear and the monsters settled down, and so the human couple did so also. The woman tried to talk, but it was pointless. She could not be understood or make herself understood, or so it seemed, until one particularly strange-looking creature replied in a type of English. She asked how he came to know English. She did not know if it was male or female or neither. The creature replied, "I was wondering how you came to know my language." "This is a language of the part of my world where I am from," she replied. The creature was shocked that such a strange looking creature could have the same language. At least this, it seemed, gave them some sort of creature to talk to. The strange thing is that the story of the creature and the couple were much the same. It was walking along and went through a door and found itself in the room it was in. The man said he had never seen anything like these other beings before. The creature agreed, saying that it had never thought that it would see anything quite like them. The creature added that he thought that they had all come here at much the same time because they all seemed to be reacting the same way. The man said he had heard of things not quite like this but similar before, and that it must be a dimensional slip, and that they were probably all from different but parallel dimensions. And these had come together in this room. So what do we do? Said the creature. I am not a scientist, he said. This the sort of thing is supposed to be myth or some mad theory, and yet here we are. I think I did hear once people saying that time slips seem to have reset mechanisms, and so in time we should go back to our own worlds. This means we should try to remain separate, said the creature. Although you realise that it could be that people only hear from those they get back. It was then that another creature started to talk. It said it was multilingual, and that it had not recognised the language at first because of the couple's apparently strange accent. This creature was some strange troll type thing, and it talked with a slightly garbled accent. It was odd that four of the creatures seemed to be able to communicate. It was so odd it unsettled everyone. But if all the creatures there were honest, they were simply happy not to have been eaten or killed. The troll type creature began to talk of its world, and it seemed that it too lived in some type of organised civilization. It became obvious that the creature there almost come from some organised society. They were all of human level intellect. The creatures began to make noises, they all did, and were shocked at the noises each other were making until they all realised that they were laughing at the situation. The strangest thing was that they all had become so engrossed with each other that they had forgotten about the doorway. So, the woman checked it. She asked if she should leave it open, and as no one could agree, she did. But the problem was this: if their worlds were so similar, how would they know which world was theirs? In fact, this did dawn on those there slowly, and so they were asked to explain what the outside they were walking through looked like before they came in, and to their shock, they all explained the same thing. The troll-type creature asked, were there any other beings around? They each replied none. They had not seen any as they had walked along. It seemed that their worlds were more similar than they had imagined. They decided to just sit still to pass the time, although it seemed that many of the creatures did not like being walled in this manner, literally. But they were all quite happy that although they had come here, that something should happen, something to take them home. They all thought of home, of the way it was, and wondered what they would tell others. And most thought it may be best to say nothing. Some others wondered if it was something that some authoritative organisation should know about, so that they could act to stop this. They did not need to stay there forever, and the time came when the wall itself, which blocked the doorway, disappeared. But they looked out and could not decide what world it was, so they all decided to go out. And as they got out, they all wanted to see some being like them. But each looked and was sure it was their world and began to feel sorry for the others. But they did eventually see other beings, and these ran at them and looked like none of them. These were, however, dressed in official military-type uniform. It was not long before they all felt themselves being shot. But they did not die and simply awoke back in another room. There was a collective scream, but then the doors were opened to show them they could get out. Slowly it was explained that each of them had in turn walked down the same street into the room. The authorities, being worried about the monsters that appeared, used their constructive technology to wall the doors shut. This did not answer how they came to be there, and it seemed a dimensional slip had occurred, and that they had simply all walked through one and into the world they were now in. But it being so similar, they all walked along and into the same building. Of course, there could be many more that they had not found. It seemed that they would never get back, but things do not always work according to plan, and the room around them started to warp and slowly merge into something else. But something else did not have all the other beings in it, and the couple found themselves alone in a room. They did not know what to make of this and opened the door, and it was in a police station, a human one on Earth. And the strange thing was that they had not been arrested for anything and had done nothing wrong. They left, and after explaining, were sent to some medical person. But having talked to them and found that they were not dangerous, released them. But of course, nothing would be found mentally wrong with them, because they had seen the truth and had really been there. But also, the medical person had interviewed many people with similar but slightly different stories, not all in rooms, but all with strange monstrous creatures. But things in life do not end at some great event, and things happen afterwards. And so in time, the different people with different but similar events came together and even formed a support group. They were all afraid, but of different things. For the couple I have talked about, it was doorways, which is strange, because they had already left their own world by then. But for others it was simply going out, for others it was fear of being inside, and none were quite the same again. People still wonder if it was some mass hallucination or military experiment. But the strange thing is that none were afraid of the monstrous creatures, not anymore. They were afraid of a much more dangerous beast. Something far more dangerous. Reality itself, space, time, and the universe. This is sensible, because if this is against you, there is no escape at all and no hope.